Imagine a man sitting in a stark, quiet hospital room right next to his dying child's bed. He is completely out of medical options.
Right, just an incredibly bleak situation.
Exactly. He is exhausted, every treatment, every expert opinion, and he is sitting there with absolutely no hope left. So what does he do?
Hmm.
He goes outside, picks up a literal rock from the dirt, holds it tight in the palm of his hand, and just starts saying the words, "Thank you."
Wow.
Yeah. He focuses entirely on gratitude for his son's health, even when there is zero evidence of it. And according to the source material we are diving into today, that specific practice with that specific rock is what led to his son's miraculous, complete recovery.
It is a profound, incredibly dramatic image to start with, and it perfectly frames the massive contrast at the heart of today's topic.
Which is taking the most mundane object imaginable, right?
Exactly, taking a completely mundane object and assigning it life-altering power.
That is exactly what we are looking at today. For you listening, we are pulling apart a very short, highly specific chapter summary titled Day 2, The Magic Rock.
Yeah, it's a fascinating piece of text.
It really is. The mission of this deep dive is to unpack how this source suggests taking gratitude, which is usually this abstract, floating concept that we all know we should probably feel more often, and turning it into a concrete, physical, daily habit.
Which is something a lot of people struggle with, honestly.
Oh, totally. Okay, let's unpack this, because on the surface, the instruction to just go find a rock sounds almost absurdly simplistic.
It does.
But the claims attached to this practice are astronomical, and we really need to examine the mechanics of how it actually purports to work.
Well, the contrast is definitely the point here. I mean, we are living in an era where people assume that to fundamentally alter their life trajectory, they need some complex system.
Right, like a 10-step productivity planner.
Exactly. Or an expensive app, a wearable device analyzing their biometric data, or a, 20-step morning routine.
Yeah, ice baths and all that.
Right. But this framework strips all of that away.
Yeah.
It argues that making gratitude an enduring habit requires concentrated, consecutive days of practice. And it provides a hyper-specific, deeply analog method to achieve that.
It's entirely about anchoring a mental state to a physical object.
Precisely.
But before we get into the practical how-to of acquiring and using this object, we have to address the elephant in the room.
The claims.
Yeah, the sheer scale of what this practice claims to achieve. The source points out that the concept of the gratitude rock was popularized in The Secret book and film, which is where that dramatic story of the father and the dying child comes from.
Mhm.
And I have to play devil's advocate here. We're talking about a miraculous recovery from a terminal state. That borders on magical thinking for a lot of people.
It's a huge leap.
Right. Does the source material actually frame this as a reliable mechanism, or does it acknowledge that this might have just been an isolated, unexplainable miracle?
What's fascinating here is the framework doesn't back away from the magnitude of that story at all, nor does it treat it as a fluke.
Wait, really? It just owns it.
Completely.
Yeah.
It actually uses that extreme scenario to normalize the success of the practice. It explicitly asserts that since that initial story, the gratitude rock has been a proven success with people all over the world.
Wow.
Yeah. The miraculous recovery isn't presented as an anomaly, it's presented as the benchmark.
So it's arguing that if it can work for a dying child, it can work for your everyday problems.
Precisely. The framework claims people use this exact same practice successfully for an incredibly wide range of desires.
Like what?
Well, it specifically lists money, health, healing, and happiness. The scope of application is basically universal.
That is a wide net to cast.
It is. The ultimate goal, as stated directly in the material, is that working these practices will help turn your life into gold and gratitude.
Gold and gratitude. That is quite the mission statement.
It's very poetic, right?
It really is. It implies a process of alchemy, you know?
Yeah.
Taking the mundane, the difficult, or the heavy parts of life and transmuting them into something highly valuable.
Yeah.
But that requires a massive leap of faith from the practitioner. I mean, you have to believe that holding a stone is going to somehow impact your bank account or your physical biology.
And that is exactly why the physical mechanics of the practice are so rigidly defined.
Right.
The framework doesn't just say, think about being grateful.
Right.
It forces you out into the physical world to initiate the process.
Which brings us to step one. You understand the extraordinarily high stakes, health, wealth, profound happiness. So how do you actually start?
You have to go find the tool.
Literally. The very first instruction is find a stone. And the guidelines for where to look are surprisingly specific.
They really are.
It suggests a garden, a riverbed, a creek, the ocean, or a park. It even mentions you might already have a precious stone you can use.
Yeah.
But the physical criteria are what really caught my attention. It insists the stone must fit into the palm of your hand. You must be able to close your fingers around it.
Mm.
It has to be smooth, with no sharp edges, not too heavy, and it absolutely must feel good in your hands. It sounds like the exact criteria for finding the perfect skipping stone at a lake. But instead of throwing it away, you're tasked with keeping it.
The skipping stone analogy is a great way to visualize it, honestly, because it highlights the intentionality of the search.
You are just grabbing a chunk of asphalt from a parking lot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are actively seeking an object with very specific physical properties. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the methodology is demanding a comforting tactile experience.
Okay, unpack that a bit.
By insisting the rock feels good in your hands and has no sharp edges, the framework is deliberately pairing the mental practice of gratitude with a physically soothing sensory input.
Wait, so why a rock at all? Why couldn't I just use a stress ball or a piece of jewelry I already wear every day, or even just my phone case?
That's a really good question.
I mean, what is it about sourcing a rock from the dirt or a riverbed that makes this specific process work?
Think about the biological response to touch, specifically in the context of our modern environment. Most of the things we touch all day, keyboards, phones, steering wheels, are engineered plastics and metals.
Yeah, that's true.
And those materials are usually associated with work, communication, and often low-level chronic stress.
Ugh.
A river stone, on the other hand, is ancient.
It has history.
Exactly. It is naturally cool to the touch. It has a density and a weight that a foam stress ball simply doesn't have.
Oh, that makes sense. The weight matters.
It does. When we are anxious or fearful, our bodies tense up and our nervous system goes on high alert. A sharp, jagged object would send a subtle neurological signal of danger.
Right.
But a smooth, weighted stone that fits perfectly in a closed palm provides instant somatosensory grounding.
So it's a literal touchstone. You are holding a piece of the earth.
Exactly. The framework is engineering a moment where the physical sensation in your hand is inherently pleasing, weighted, and calming.
Which sets the stage, basically.
Yes. This creates the optimal physiological canvas for the mental work you are about to do. You are down-regulating your nervous system before you even begin to think about gratitude.
Okay, I see the logic there. You are sourcing a piece of the physical world that inherently signals safety and permanence. So you have gone to the riverbed, you have found this perfectly smooth stone that fits right in your closed fist. Now you actually have to use it.
Right, because just looking at it doesn't do anything.
Exactly. Having a rock on your dresser doesn't do anything on its own. The physical object is completely useless without the nightly ritual attached to it.
The object itself is just a rock.
Yeah.
The transformation is entirely in the ritual action performed with it.
And the instructions for this ritual are highly choreographed. First is the location. The material dictates that you must put the rock by your bedside in a place where you will definitely see it when you go to bed.
Yeah, it has to be a visual tripwire, right at that critical transition point of the day.
Then, the physical action. Tonight, just before you get into bed to go to sleep, pick up your magic rock, hold it in the palm of your hand, and close your fingers around it.
Notice how the instructions force you to physically anchor yourself first. You are holding the weight, feeling the smoothness, and closing your hand.
And then the brain work starts.
Exactly. Only after the physical anchor is set does the mental exercise begin.
And the mental exercise is surprisingly demanding. The instructions tell you to think back through all the good times that happened throughout the entire day. But here's where it gets really interesting. It doesn't just want a general, warm and fuzzy list of those good times. It forces you to single out the best thing that happened. Why does it do that? Why demand the single, absolute best thing rather than just letting people be generally thankful for a nice day?
This raises an important question about how human attention and memory actually function.
Okay.
If the instruction was simply, think of some good things, your brain could passively let a few pleasant, low-resolution thoughts drift by.
Like lunch was good or whatever.
Exactly. You could think, lunch is fine, the weather was okay, while simultaneously worrying about a meeting you have tomorrow. Passive thinking doesn't require much cognitive load,
Ah, I see.
but by demanding that you identify the singular best thing, The framework forces an active review and ranking system.
So it's essentially an elimination tournament for your memories.
That's a great way to put it.
You're forcing your brain to relive multiple positive moments just to judge them against each other and crown one winner.
That is exactly what is happening. We call this cognitive friction. You have to actively sift through your day, chronologically or thematically.
Right.
You might think, well, the coffee was great this morning, but then my coworker helped me with that project. But actually, the walk I took at sunset was really peaceful. Which one was actually the best?
You really have to weigh them.
Yes. To answer that question, you are forced to re-experience the emotional high of all three events. You are bathing your brain in positive recall just to fulfill the criteria of the exercise.
And because you are allocating so much mental bandwidth to judging these positive events against each other, you literally don't have the processing power left to ruminate on the negative things.
Bingo.
You can't simultaneously rank your best memories while agonizing over an embarrassing email you sent at 2 p.m.
Precisely. The brain cannot process two high-level analytical tasks with conflicting emotional valences at the exact same time.
That's amazing.
It is. Once you have navigated that cognitive friction and identified that specific best thing, the ritual instructs you to say the magic words "thank you" specifically for that winning event.
And then?
Then you simply return the rock to its place by the bed. The material declares, "That's IT," but as we just unpacked, the psychological mechanism underneath "that's it" is incredibly robust.
It is entirely hijacking that liminal space right before sleep.
Yeah.
For so many people, the moment their head hits the pillow is when the anxiety loop starts.
Oh, absolutely.
The silence of the room lets all the worries of the day and all the fears of tomorrow rush in. But this ritual intercepts that process. You are holding a grounding, weighted object, and your brain is busy running an elimination tournament of joy.
And the timing of this interception is critical. By doing this right before sleep, you are setting the psychological and physiological tone for your entire night of rest.
Because it's the last thing you do.
Exactly. You are transitioning into unconsciousness rooted entirely in gratitude, which the framework argues will heavily influence your baseline mood when you wake up the next morning.
You are consciously closing the loop of the day on a note of absolute appreciation.
Right.
Okay, so we have established the massive claims of the practice. We have sourced the physically perfect grounding stone, and we understand the cognitive friction and the interception of the anxiety loop that happens during the nightly bedside ritual. But doing this once might just give you one good night of sleep. A single good night doesn't cure an illness or fix your finances.
No, it doesn't.
How does this bridge the gap from a momentary comfort to the long-term life-altering habit the material promises?
The bridge is consistency. The physical action and the mental sorting are just the mechanics. The duration is the actual catalyst for transformation.
And the framework is uncompromising about that timeline. This is not presented as a one-time exercise to try when you feel like it.
Not at all.
It isn't an emergency lever you pull only when you're having a terrible day. The instructions dictate that you must return the rock to the bedside and repeat this exact process every single night for the next 26 nights.
26 nights. If we look back at the opening premise we discussed, the argument was that making gratitude a habit requires concentrated days in a row.
Right.
The repetition is the active ingredient here. Doing this exercise once is a novel experience. Doing it 26 times in a row is the systematic formation of a new neural pathway.
But why exactly 26 days? I mean, is there something inherently magical about that number, or is it just a threshold to force you past the initial resistance of starting a new habit?
It functions primarily as a threshold for neuroplasticity. The exact number of days to form a habit varies from person to person, but generally, it takes anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks of unbroken repetition for a new behavior to become somewhat automatic.
So the 26 days gets you over that hump?
Exactly. The key phrase in the framework is "in a row." It demands a streak.
Which means it demands that you do this even on the terrible days.
That is the most crucial part of the 26-day commitment. Anyone can find the best thing on a day they got a promotion or went on vacation.
Sure, that's easy.
But the 26-day streak guarantees that you will inevitably encounter a day that is frustrating, exhausting, or genuinely sad.
Yeah.
And the framework dictates that even on that day, you still have to pick up the smooth stone, you still have to feel its weight, and you still have to sift through the rubble of a miserable 24 hours to find the single best thing.
That sounds incredibly difficult. If you've had a day where everything went wrong, Your brain naturally wants to fixate on the unfairness of it all.
It is difficult,
Yeah.
but that is exactly when the neural rewiring happens.
Wow.
Over 26 consecutive days, you are essentially training your brain's reticular activating system, the filter that decides what information to pay attention to become highly efficient at scanning for the positive.
You are teaching your brain that no matter how dark the room is, its job is to locate the one source of light.
Perfectly said.
So what does this all mean? For the listener who is sitting there and they actually commit to this, they go to the river, they find the perfectly smooth rock, they put it by their bed, and they actively engage in this cognitive elimination tournament every single night for almost a month.
Mm-hmm.
What is the ultimate payoff according to this framework?
The framework synthesizes all of these specific steps into one grand definitive promise. It states that engaging in this nightly review, utilizing the physical tactile anchor, and maintaining the repetition over 26 consecutive nights alongside other daily practices will actively change your life in a few months.
Just a few months.
That is the timeline provided for total transformation. A few months of dedicated, repeated focus to shift a life entirely toward gold and gratitude.
Yeah. Will change your life in a few months. It is a remarkably bold statement to make about holding a rock.
It really is.
But when you break down the psychology of how it forces active recall, how it interrupts pre-sleep anxiety, and how it demands neuroplasticity through a 26-day streak, the mechanics beneath the bold claim actually start to make a lot of logical sense.
They do. It's very practical when you look under the hood.
Exactly. So to quickly recap the actionable blueprint for you listening right now. First, go out into the physical world and find a natural, smooth rock that fits comfortably in your closed fist.
Mm-hmm.
Put it by your bed where you absolutely cannot miss it. Every night, right before you fall asleep, pick it up. Review your entire day to sift out the single absolute best moment.
Find the winner.
Right. Say the words thank you out loud for that specific moment. Put the rock back. And commit to doing this without fail for the next 26 nights.
It is a practice worth testing, honestly. Whether you are seeking the profound healing or financial wealth mentioned in the source's origin stories, or you are simply looking for a mechanism to ensure a more peaceful, grounded mood in the morning.
Yeah, there's no downside.
None at all. It requires no specialized equipment, no subscription fees, and no prior expertise. It is a highly accessible, profound psychological tool disguised as a simple piece of the earth.
It really is an elegant solution to a complex modern problem. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Oh, I like these.
Think about the cumulative long-term effect of this exact ritual. If you physically hold the exact same stone, feeling its specific weight, its temperature, and its smooth texture every single time you recall the absolute best, most joyous moment of your day.
Yeah.
What happens to that rock over time? Does it psychologically stop being a simple piece of a riverbed? Does it literally become a kind of physical hard drive for your brain? A tangible weight in your hand that eventually holds the muscle memory of your happiest moments, so that eventually just the sheer act of touching it begins to trigger a feeling of profound gratitude before you even close your eyes.
It is a beautiful synthesis of the physical environment and the human mind.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep looking for those smooth stones and keep searching for the best part of your day.